Well, hey, everybody. So when we think about the idea that you have a choice, right? That, man, there are so many choices out there. Choices of obviously what you want to eat when you go to bed. I mean, just all these choices. Some people think, well, I don't really have a choice in the matter. I don't have a say in the matter. I don't have this opportunity. Or the choice has been made for me. It's something I've heard quite often. Right? Well, that choice has been made for me. Well, that's simply incorrect. But in today's reading, I find this really interesting because Moses, here we're in the book of Deuteronomy, for those that are following along the reading plan, and we're coming to the end of Deuteronomy. The end of Deuteronomy is also the end of Moses. It's the end of that era. And we're going into then the Joshua era and then overtaking the promised land. But there's this interesting, as we're reading chapter 29 and 30 today as well, this interesting moment where Moses is talking to the children of Israel. This is what he says. He says, I have these commandments. I'm laying out them for you. These are all the things that I've already told you. I'm saying it one more time. They've been laid out for you. But listen to this. In verse 11, he says, for this commandment that I command you today is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. Moses believed with his whole heart that these commandments are possible to follow, all 613 of them. I mean, just so many of them, but they're possible. If you had the right heart, that you would be able to follow those commandments. And now fast forward, we come into the age that you and I are in now, the age of grace. And what I mean by grace is that Christ died for all that sin, right? And that he becomes the ultimate sacrifice. And therefore, we don't have to go sacrifice goats and sheep and doves and wash ourselves in mikvahs and do all these other things, right? That's what I'm talking about when I talk about the age of grace. But Moses recognized and said, even all these lofty goals, all these lofty commandments, they're still not that hard for you. But today, in our world today, people look at Christianity and say, well, there are all these rules. How can you follow all these rules? How can you do all this stuff? Let me just tell you, it's really simple. If you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, right, with all your strength, and you focus on him in those moments, guess what? You're not going to sin because your whole focus is on God. But this is the choice. And this is what Moses says. He says, see, I've set before you, verse 15 of Deuteronomy chapter 30. He says, see, I've set before you today life and good, death and evil. He says, you have a choice. You have a choice. You can pick life and the good that comes out of it, or you can pick death and the evil that comes out of that. Recognize that's the same choice that you and I have today. As a follower of Christ, I have that choice. I'm either going to pick life and the good that brings, or I'm going to bring death. I'm either going to follow the promises of God and therefore obey God and be blessed, or I'm going to not follow, not obey, and be cursed. It's as simple as that. Am I following what God has asked me to do? You have a choice. It's not what other people have done to you. It's not the circumstances. Yes, you've been wrong. Yes, you've been hurt. Yes, you've got evil pounding at your door. Yes, things have happened to you. But you have a choice on how you respond to those things that have happened in your life. Are you going to pick life, or are you going to pick death? Are you going to pick goodness, or are you going to pick evil? Which direction are you going to go? These commandments are not too hard for you. Following Jesus is not too hard for you. It's a decision to say, this day, this moment, this time, I'm going to serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and